Warning, the following video contains spoilers. If you don't want this episode spoiled for you, switch the video off now.
The Timeshift.
Hello and welcome to the first Timeshift of 2020, the first of a new decade. Today we're talking about the latest episode of Doctor Who entitled Spyfall. Now before I tell you my opinions on it, I want to know what you think of it, dear listener. Did you love this episode of Doctor Who? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comment section down below and I'll get back to you shortly, either directly in the comments themselves or towards the end of next week's video where you'll be featured in some kind of fancy highlight reel. Ooh! And of course, if you like this episode of the Timeshift, be sure to like this video, or subscribe if you really like it, or click the bell if you're not really ready to commit yet. Anyway, let us just dive headfirst into the review itself to actually discuss Spyfall. Now, if this is the first time you're watching one of the episodes of the Timeshift, this part of the video will be discussing more of the story and the production side of things, then transitioning into the performances, and then giving my overall thoughts of the episode itself. So, to discuss the story and production side of things, well, this is a hell of a way to open a new series, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? I mean, I've already said there's going to be spoilers in this video, so we might as well come out and say it. The Master is back. Brand new actor whose name escapes me at the moment, who did a fantastic job. Haven't really seen them much in the Master mode via the proclaiming, the gurning, the grinning, sinisterly little bit towards the end of the episode, but I think that the whole reveal and slow realisation as to who he is was really well handled this episode, even though I had this feeling, considering the nature of the weird glowy minions, that this might be Omega, and there was a slight part of me that was slightly disappointed that it wasn't Omega, but we never know, we may see him at some point in this coming series or next series, you never know. I mean, let's be honest, Mr. Chibnall, I mean, I know it, you know, well of course you know it, most of the fans know it, you are a massive fan of John Pertwee era Doctor Who. I mean, it makes sense given the nature of the opening sequence that you have. It makes sense if Arachne's in the UK, despite the quality or lack thereof that episode has, that you're a massive fan of that era, even if I remember correctly you have the dedication in loving memory to Terence Dicks, or towards the end of this episode itself. So it's obvious that you like those kind of episodes, and this felt like a fine enough tribute to that. I don't think that, in all honesty, that it's really as good as those spy-filled, high-octane, spy-pulpy kind of adventures on the Pertwee era, but I think it's a very commendable, I'm not even going to attempt to say that a third time, I think it's a really admirable effort, the work that you put into this. Though with that said, there are aspects of it that do stick out to me as being sore points within it. As I've said previously, with regards to this series of Doctor Who and this incarnation of Doctor, I'm not a fan of the humour within it. I'd be very hesitant to say that it's cringe, hashtag cringe, as the kids these days say, because whilst it wasn't that bad, I mean, there's certain moments in the episode which feels like it's typical of pop science fiction as well as pop culture in general at the moment, where you'd get a joke which seems to undercut the dramatic significance of what's going on, and the performance and delivery of some of those particular quips I will discuss in the performance section just shortly, which stick out to me for all the wrong reasons. This was a very exciting episode of Doctor Who. I think that Lenny Henry, and we'll discuss this more in the performance section again, did a very credible job as a villain. He was cold, he was serious, he was sinister, and these are always things I look for when it comes to a Doctor Who villain. I am not a fan of the John Sim, I'm crazy kind of villain. I mean, I love my Saturday morning cartoon villains, don't get me wrong, but my word, I like to have a bit of a juxtaposition between our hero and our villain. Our hero is kind of quirky and wacky. We don't need a quirky, wacky villain, though I fear that might be what we'll be getting with the Master next week and going forward. As I said towards the start of this video, I mean, this is one hell of a way to start a new series. This kind of revelation that the Master is back, this kind of feels like the kind of thing you'd have towards the end of a series. This feels like the kind of thing you'd see in the either penultimate or the third to the last episode. You get the revelation that the Master is back and he's up to no good and he's going to do something sinister and scary, but no, we get it right at the start of the series, which on the one hand makes me really excited to see where this series is going to go, because if this is your opener, my word, where the hell are you going to go for the rest of this series? But at the same time, it also makes me scared that much like a couple of series ago where you had that great Dalek two-parter, that the opener will be the highlight and everything else will just kind of be on varying degrees of sucking after this. I don't think there's much else that really sticks out to me at this particular moment, so let us dive headfirst into the performance section or discuss the performances, or possibly lack thereof. Oh dear. Okay, so now here's the point where we discuss the performances, hence the term, the performance section. Look, I don't mean to talk down anyone's performance. If you've been watching the Timeshift for quite some time now, you'll notice that some of my moods, or at least how I approach my reviews when it comes to Doctor Who and such, has mellowed slightly. So I'm in less of a mind now to wag my fingers and call someone an arsehole because they weren't giving the performance of their life. However, with that said, I can't help but feel that Bradley Walsh was slightly AWOL in this week's episode of Doctor Who. There was something about his performance which seemed to have an absence to it. Maybe it's because he wasn't the central focus of it, and as such, he kind of felt a little bit sidelined in terms of the action and the drama itself. I mean, let us be honest, last season was pretty much the Ryan and Graham show as terms our interpersonal drama stuff. And seeing as that whole arc has been resolved by him, and according to Chibnall in various different interviews, that Yaz is going to take more of a central stage in this particular series, that he feels sidelined. He feels sidelined almost in a way that Yaz did, but at least when Yaz was sidelined, when Mandip Gill was sidelined, she still pulled in a commendable performance. With Bradley Walsh, I'm not saying he was bad. Let us get that out of the way. I'm not saying he was bad. But there were certain line deliveries, particularly the worst Uber ever gag, which just seemed to be a little bit flat for me in ways that I'm not really sure what to make from it. Maybe it was just low energy, maybe it was tired, maybe this was a few scenes, maybe this was an episode which was filmed late into the production of it. I honestly don't know, and I'm not going to speculate too much. I'm not going to wag my finger. Maybe I'll do some speculating into the overview, where this whole series is going to go in terms of characters and its overall narrative. But, you know, I feel that something is a little bit odd and off about Bradley Walsh's performance, particularly when you bear in mind, whilst he's not a comic actor and he's not a comedian, he does do comedy gags very well, but in the various different roles he's played. So for him not to deliver worst Uber ever and the various other little quips he had, you know, in quite the level we'd expect to him, just kind of makes me feel something's off. But I'm not going to speculate on that because I get very uncomfortable discussing and thinking about background shenanigans. As for the other performances, I feel that, well, our companions, I think that Ryan and Yaz were perfectly fine, perfectly commendable. I think that they're starting to come into their roles a lot more now. Particularly Ryan, I feel as though his performance is a lot more settled down now. It's a lot more looser and a lot more relaxed. I'm liking them far now than I did in the previous series of Doctor Who, mainly because I suppose that because this is a two-parter, it means that the characters do get time to react and to let scenes settle and for us to see the full spectrum of their emotions rather than be the, oh, what's that, Doctor? Oh, it's a scary thing, kind of thing you get in much of modern Doctor Who. It gives you more time to actually settle down and understand it. I would have liked a little bit more at the start of the episode to see where our characters were in their life, see a little bit more of the mundane side of things that they're getting into, but, you know, I'd like to review what's in front of me, not the things that I would like to see. And as for Jodie Whittaker's performance, I don't want to say she's the Doctor yet, though I would expect to after a whole series I'd be at that point. I do like the little quirk that she's developing where you'll have moments where it looks like there's something going on behind the eyes. It looks like she's a little bit more pissed off and a little bit more angry. Particularly when you have the bit with the two secret agents, the two bodyguards in Australia, and they're like, no, we'll secure the flank, we'll do the perimeter outside, and she's just there like, no, you're not doing that, because you're going to get yourself killed, though I know that if I tell you that, you know, you're still going to go out and do it anyway, so I suppose I'll just have to sit here. It's kind of like a pissed off mother kind of thing of, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed, and I kind of like the edge to it. I kind of hope that becomes more of a thing, because Jodie Whittaker's Doctor feels as though she wants to be everybody's friend. She wants to be the friend to everybody and everybody. But I want that to be motivated by a little bit something more. I want that to become a little bit more of a thing. Maybe the reason she is so enthusiastic about being friends with everyone and using the kind of corny, wear the TARDIS fam, yo stuff, as being a way to bring people in so that she can save them all, to make them feel more comfortable around her. And when people decide, yeah, no, what, you're just a mad woman in a box, I'm going to do whatever, it's then she gets disappointed and sad because she knows what's going to happen to them. You know, that kind of aspect of the fact she's been doing this now for centuries, so, you know, they know where this is going. They know when someone says, no, I know better than you, Doctor, I'm going to go out there with a gun and shoot these energy monsters. You know, she knows it's going to end up with someone getting their head kicked in or getting zapped or whatever. But you know what, I hope that this is the sign of something more with Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. She's been lacking an edge to her, which a lot of the other Doctors in the modern run have had. I would like to see a little bit more of it. We'll see where that goes. Apparently from interviews they're saying that there is going to be a little bit more of that. We'll soon see. And as for our new Master, again, as I said in the previous section, a fine performance. Perfectly fine. I think that they played the meek secret agent guy fairly well, and I feel that their performance of the Master was fine for what it was. That's not me being dismissive, I'm just simply saying that, well, we didn't really see them as the Master for that long. We'll see a little bit more of them next week, and maybe as this series goes on, and for the remainder of Chibnall's time as the showrunner, however long or short that may end up being. I think that as a reveal, as a visual sequence itself, it's very well done, but, you know, we want to see the Master being the Master. The Master being someone else, General Masters or whomever. As interesting as that may be, it's not the Master being the Master, but, you know, that's a whole other matter. As for Lenny Henry, our subsidiary villain, I think he did a good job. He was suitably sinister. He was a tech billionaire that wasn't a Mark Zuckerberg type character, and I'm just pleased to see that. I'm sick of the quirky Mark Zuckerberg type supervillains in fiction. I want to see something a little bit different. That's what we get with Lenny Henry's performance in this. It's something that feels a lot more resentful, a lot more bitter, a lot more angry. He's not doing this seemingly under any pretense of making the world a better place. He's just seemingly doing this because he thinks everyone's an arsehole. He was treated for an arsehole for most of his life, so he's just going to do whatever the fuck he wants because he's a genius and he's going to do it, and that's what he's done. I can commend that. I can commend salty arseholiness. This comes from a very salty arsehole. But anyway, I can't think of anything else for discuss for the performances, so let's just go into the overview and my overall thoughts of the episode itself. Okay, so the overview, my overall feelings for the episode as a whole, and as a whole, I thought it was very commendable. I thought it was a very competent episode. If I am to be blunt with you, dear listener, I do not think that it was as strong as last season's opener. You know, if you take the twist of O being the Master out of this, kind of doesn't. Alright, I'll admit, it doesn't really work as an episode full stop, but had the revelation been that there was someone else, had there been anyone else, or just, the Doctor, I'm actually the squiggly faced alien monster, it still wouldn't really had quite the same impact to it as it being the Master. But outside of that, there's not much else that really stands out to me that says this is an all-time classic episode of Doctor Who. It's competent, it's okay, it does the job perfectly well. It's fun and exciting in a way that many other episodes last season, as much as I enjoyed last season, despite some of its glaring faults within it, I still think it's better than a lot of those episodes. I think this is still a fantastic episode in and of itself, and it has the kind of adventure and flair to it that, again, a lot of those episodes last season were lacking. I think that the proof of the pudding will be in the eating somewhat when we get to the conclusion to this two-parter, because we have to stick the landing of this. We have to make sure that next week's episode is just as good, if not better, as this one. Of course, I say next week, it's going to be in a few days' time, it's going to be on Sunday. Not really that long to really build up much suspense on the fan feelings, but whatever, that's a whole other thing. As I say, I think it's a perfectly competent episode, I think it's a perfectly fine episode, but again, it needs to stick the landing. Though with that said, that can be said for just about everything about this coming series. Look, I am not blind to it, I am not dumb to it, I'm not deaf to it. I know that last season was beyond the call of duty, shall we say, for many people watching it. It was a point where many people quite politely put their hands up and said, you know what, I'm out. Many other people said that out in less polite and friendly ways. And for many people it was a case of, alright, you had some good episodes last season. You had Rosa, you had Demons of the Punjab, you had It Takes You Away. Great episodes, really good. Now, we have some goodwill banked up. Don't bugger it up, because if you bugger it up, we're done. We want a great season coming up. We want a great series coming up. Whether or not we'll get that, we'll soon see. But if we don't get that, my worry is that it's going to lead to a lot of people just saying, you know what, I'm done with this. I gave it a run, I gave it a shot, I gave Chibnall every opportunity to turn things around, and he didn't do it. And I'd rather that isn't the case. If this opening episode is at all a reflection of the quality that we will get for the coming series, I am optimistic that will not happen. But with that said, for the woman that fell to earth last season, we had a not demons of the Punjab. We had a arachnids of the UK. We had the Zengran configuration. So we have to be blunt here. We have to be blunt that Chibnall doesn't have a great batting average when it comes to writing episodes of Doctor Who, and his time as a showrunner, yeah, he may be able to pick some really top quality scripts out, but as a whole entity, as a whole series, last series didn't really hang that well together. This one, we hope it's going to hang a lot more well together, and it's really going to knock it out of the park. Because if it doesn't, well then the best case scenario is that people will come back after Whittaker's left. The worst case scenario is that they won't come back until after Chibnall has left. However long that may be, if he goes for the usual 7 years, well, we're not getting up seeing these people back who've politely checked out to at least 2024 at the earliest. So let us be blunt here, let us not get twisted. A lot's on the line here, whether you like it or not. Some people will politely check out. I will probably remain on it because I think that for the most part, some of the good and competent decisions and creative decisions have been made. I just think they could be done better. But what about you, dear viewer? What did you think about this week's episode of Doctor Who? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll get back to you shortly, either directly in the comments themselves or towards the end of a future video. Be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell, and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Let me know what you thought about this week's episode, and let me know what you think about this oncoming series. Are you excited for it? Is this a series you've been looking forward to for a while? Is this like a last chance saloon for you thing with Chibnall or Whittaker or whomever? Or this is just the first episode of Doctor Who you've ever seen and you're kind of confused by everything? Let me know. It is great to always hear from you, no matter how long or short your messages may be. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.